So with that, we move on to the second round, which is similar rules, but we go anti-clockwise. So we start with NLSIU Team 2, right? Mixed bag of questions, but this is just to kind of ensure that the order changes. We will quickly jump into the 7th question of the quiz. Here it is. So Setu Lakshmi Bai was the monarch of the Kingdom of Travancore between 1924 and 1931. Interestingly, she was also one of the granddaughters of Raja Ravi Verma. Setu Lakshmi Bai's regency continued the progressive administration of the Travancore dynasty and brought forth reforms like abolition of Devdasi system as well as the prohibition of animal sacrifice. Her meeting with Mahatma Gandhiji in 1925 resulted in a royal proclamation relating to a tourist attraction. It set the stage for an iconic satyagraha protest against caste-based discrimination. What did this proclamation result in? Visual on the next slide. So here, full points for giving me the name of the satyagraha and what that satyagraha resulted in, right? So if you know the full part, only then go for it, right? And the Kingdom of Travancore was known to be very conservative state. They had very rigid practices before, so this was one of the earliest steps of reformation, so to say. Okay, with that, we have NUJS, which has raised their hand for the pounds. I close pounds, and I quickly check their answer, right? With that, moving on to NLSIU Team 2.
Is it the Vaikom Satyagraha and the Temple Entry movement?
You're saying this is the Vaikom Satyagraha, and what did it lead to?
It led to temple entry movement for the lower caste.
It led to the temple entry to the Vaikom temple. That's the right answer. Very good. So this is the Vaikom Satyagraha, and what it led was all the roads to the temple, the Vaikom Mahadeva temple, were open to people from all castes. Right? So it was only open to the higher caste and the Brahmins in that time. So after that, it was open to everybody, and that was the kind of the reformatory work that Lakshmi Bai did. Good 10 points, and good 10 points to NUJS for a pounds and getting that right. Good 10 points. So a huge round of applause for the teams for getting that right. Well done, all of you. Right? Next question coming up on the screen. Right. So this is a book called The Mystery of the Parsi Lawyer by Shrabani Basu, which deals with the false conviction of this Parsi gentleman, George Edilji, a mixed-race solicitor of Parsi descent. The case was overturned thanks to the efforts of a particular individual who examined witnesses, evidence, and used his keen deduction skills to poke holes in the state's case. This case is said to have led to the establishment of the Court of Appeal, of England's Court of Criminal Appeal in 1907, who, known for his work in a related field, helped exonerate George Edilji. And I think this is kind of a very interesting case in, let's say, in Britain, where a case was overturned after a lower court giving a certain decision, and that was for the efforts of this gentleman who went ahead, unearthed new evidence and so on. Okay, so teams which are pouncing, I need you to raise your hands. I see 3 teams on this side, 4 teams, 5 teams pouncing. NLSIU, are you pouncing or not? Okay, 5 teams pouncing, and I close pounce. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I've seen the answers of all the teams, and the direct was to AFMC.
So we'll say Dadabhai Naroji for this.
They say Dadabhai Naroji, first Indian member of the House of Commons. Good guess, not quite. Moving on to all the teams pounced. I think you also pounced. Guwahati Medical College also pounced. So NUJS also pounced, right? Yeah. And NLSIU.
So we'll guess this is Dinshaw Farunji Mullah. Dinshaw Farunji Mullah.
Okay, so they say Mullah and Co., the famous lawyer Mullah of Delhi, Bombay. So Bombay High Court, not quite. Anyone from the audience? Work this out. There are lots of clues. And why do you think so? You read about this, and yes, that's the right answer. Think of Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, in real life actually solving a problem. It's a very interesting case. You all have to go read about it. The police were so, revenge struck by this that they started inflicting false evidences to put him on false trials and so on. And imagine this is a appeal, the judgment is being taken and this appeal. So a lot of drama, but at the end of the day, George L.G. was acquitted as a result, and the Court of Appeal got created. Good answer. This is Arthur Conan Doyle. And Team Switch Pounds, if you can raise your hands. So Guwahati Medical College got it right. Unfortunately, NUJS also said Dada by Naroji. It's a good guess, but not the right one today. So -10 for NUJS. NLU Delhi, Team 1, Team 2 cracks it with 10 points. SLS Pune and NLSIU Team 1 also get it for 10 points, right? So AFMC was a direct question, right, for you folks, right? So this is Arthur Conan Doyle. And from the world of Arthur Conan Doyle, we move on to, again, AFMC, since no one answered it, comes back to you folks. Your direct question coming up on the screen. This Guru Dutt's film title is a reference to an act, one among a series that sought to establish a common law code relating to a particular issue. This statute was one of the few that were discussed during the Constituent Assembly legislative debates, albeit with little success, as only 3 of its 55 clauses were passed. Which act is referenced in the name of this mid-1950s film? This, in fact, was a landmark film for Madhubala in the film, and effectively this was one of the highest grossing films of that time. Think of Kantara of this year, that age, right? So let me play the video.
हैट और रेनकोट पहने रहना तहजीब के खिलाफ है। रेनकोट?
इसे रहने दीजिए।
क्यों?
ये मैं आपको कैसे बताऊं?
क्यों, क्या बात है, बता।
मेरी पतलून की हालत कुछ।
रहने दो। कुंवारे हो अभी तक?
जी हाँ, भगवान की दया से।
और भगवान की दया से बेकार भी हो?
जी।
बहुत अच्छी। बैठ जाओ। बैठो।
माफ कीजिए, मेरे बेकार रहने में आपको क्या अच्छाई नजर आती है, ये मैं नहीं समझ सका।
समझ जाओगे। बेकारी की वजह से काफी मुश्किलों में होगे। कर्ज होगा, बिल चुकाने होंगे, घर का किराया, खाने का बिल, दर्जी का बिल।
जी, दर्जी का नहीं, धोबी का बिल।
तो सब मिलाकर तुम्हारा महीने का क्या खर्च है?
यही कोई 200-250 रुपये।
तो देखो, हम तुम्हारी तमाम मुश्किलें दूर कर देंगे।
Right. So the important thing is it's referenced in the name of the movie, right? So the Guwahati Medical College had a question: is the name of the act in the name of the movie? It was referenced. So that's the way you need to work out. Teams which are pouncing, anyone pouncing? Okay, looks like everyone taking more conservative. They want to hold on, not take a risk at this stage. And the direct, I think, was to AFMC.
So the movie is Mr. and Mrs. 55, and so what happens is that they get that guy married to a girl so that she can inherit. So we'll say the Hindu Succession Act.
Right. So you're saying the Hindu Succession Act, and you're saying it's Mr. and Mrs. 55, right? Do you want to give me a little more context on that answer?
So basically what happens is that she can't inherit unless she marries. That is the condition of the will. So she has to marry a guy, which is basically on a false pretext, so that she can inherit. So that is essentially what happens.
Right. And what is the act that you are going with?
The Hindu Code Bill.
Okay. You know what? I think at sometimes in the finals, I just need to be a little lenient because they got the overall concept right. And the influence of this at that point in time is the overall code bill or the Hindu code bill, but specifically the Hindu Marriage Act. right? So I will give it to you. I'll give it to you for that. That's a very good crack. They got the name of the movie. They were able to think through, because it was a collection of acts that point in time which codified the Hindu law. And I'm using my discretion and I'm giving it to you. This is the Hindu Marriage Act, but largely they got the funda right as well. So one of the conditions in the movie is that the protagonist, incidentally, as she turned 21, if within 30 days she had to get married, if not, the property would not come to her. Her aunt is trying to broker a deal for a false marriage and so on. That was the time when the divorce bill had just been passed under the Hindu Marriage Act. So therefore, they wanted to ensure that they took advantage of that. It's a social commentary of that times, of the movie, of prejudices and challenges from different stakeholders in the movie. Interestingly, for all the audience, there in that film, Guru Dutt effectively plays a cartoonist, okay? And this particular artwork that you see was made by another famous cartoonist. Any guesses? It was probably, I think, amongst his works, only few where he had done a poster for a movie. He created the poster for the movie. Any guesses? Mr. and Mrs. 55, the poster, which cartoonist was behind it? Give a guess. Thinking R.K. Lakshman? It is, right? This is R.K. Lakshman who created the artwork for that particular poster as well. So this is R.K. Lakshman, and very interestingly, the protagonist is a cartoonist, so there is lots of this one. So I'm using my discretion and giving that, because if you read it largely, Guru Dutt was inspired by a large part of that Hindu code bill. So since you said Hindu code bill, it's the umbrella of all the acts that related to codification of the Hindu law. Good 10 points, AFMC. And I think they deserve a good round of applause for cracking that. No team had pounced on that. Moving on to the next question. Coming up on the screen, and this is direct to NLSIU Team 1. Dr. Ganesh Devi was the mastermind behind the People Linguistic Survey of India that recognized 780 languages across our country based on several factors such as geography, written script, history, etc. The idea of this project came about when he found that while the 1961 census recognized 1652 or 1652 mother tongues, the very next census showed an official list of only 108. Almost 90% down. The main cause of this was government's panic due to a certain geopolitical event of the time. What was the government's fear that forced them to take such a drastic measure? Right? From all the way from 1652 languages, they brought it down to about 108 at that point in time, owing to the fear the government had in relation to a geopolitical issue that was an important thing that captured their at that time, which something that bothered them and so on, right? So which particular, what was the government's fear at that time? What was that geopolitical event, right? So anyone pouncing on this? No one pouncing. I close pounce, and the direct is to NLSIU Team 1.
Our guess is that the event is the 1971 war, the Bangladesh War of Independence, and the resulting exodus of people into India, and how I believe the concern was something about, you know, the ethnic minorities and something along those lines. That's the event, and we're going that the government was worried that because the minorities are coming in, the refugees are coming in, they will affect the demographics of the region.
Okay.
So
You want to add on? Yeah.
So broadly, I think they did not recognize the mother tongues of the region that was Bangladesh, particularly because, again, I think it's ethnic minorities, but I think, I can't think of much broadly, I just know
Okay,
it's the...
so let me take away from their misery, and I'll give it you 10 points. The event is right. This is the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, and there was an exodus. And what the government's fear was that it might lead to more separation, considering many more communities might seek for their own states, right? So that was what their fear was, and they kind of came up with this next sense, on their census that they reduced the languages. But yeah, that was the answer, and this is a good magnum opus to recognize different languages that existed during that time by Ganesh Devi. So good 10 points and well done, well worked out. What made you think of 1971 war?
It says 61. Next sentence.
That was what we wanted you to work out also. Good thinking, yes. So if you look at it, 1961, census happens every 10 years. So you're looking at 1971 as the next 10 years. And what was the most important event India had was the 1971 Liberation War. And that was a very well worked out answer from NLSIU Team 1. So they got the clue that we had as well. And that's the answer. Right, moving on to the next question. So this is the caliber for the national finalists. Well done. Moving on to Symbiosis Law School, Pune. Your direct question on the screen. So Frederick Oscar Ortel, a German-born engineer, architect, and archaeologist, was a graduate of the Thomason College of Civil Engineering. Interestingly, IIT Roorkee of present day, which supposedly is one of the oldest engineering colleges in Asia, and worked at the Public Works Department of the government. He's most known for his discovery of something in the winter of 1904-05 while working in Uttar Pradesh. His discovery was a subject of Constituent Assembly debates, including observations by Jawaharlal Nehru in his speech in the Constituent Assembly on 22nd July 1947. What is his famous discovery, which the main elements are supposed to symbolize power, pride, courage, and confidence? Right? Teams which are pouncing, I need you to raise your hands. Plus 10 if you get it wrong, right? Minus 10 if you get it wrong. 2 teams pouncing from this side, and all teams pouncing on this side. So I will quickly close bounce and check the answers from here. We're going quickly if I can get your answers. Okay. And teams which bounced here. So, seen the answers from the teams, and the direct was to Symbiosis Law School, Pune.
We'll say that the famous discovery is of the Ashoka pillar.
So you're saying Frederick Oscar Ortel, when he was working on a site in Uttar Pradesh, he found the Ashoka pillar, which gave us the national emblem. That's the right answer. Very well done. A huge round of applause. So a German engineer who in fact discovered the Ashoka pillar, or the lion capital as they would call it, at Sarnath, and we blanked out Sarnath there so that you could work out from Uttar Pradesh. And interestingly, the lions are supposed to represent, the 4 lions are supposed to represent power, courage, pride, and confidence. And that was the element that we were going for. Teams which pounced, if you can quickly raise your hands, right? 10 points to Guwahati Medical College, NUJS, NLU Delhi, and NLU Delhi Team 2. And we have 10 points to AFMC and NLSIU Team 2. Looks like NLSIU Team 1 is hitting themselves for not going for that. This was amongst the questions which we thought most of you should be able to crack and get ahead in the round. This is the Sarnath Ashoka pillar and the contribution of this German engineer in this insignia of our country, right? Jawaharlal Nehru spoke in length about how this of the emblem being chosen as our national symbol in the Constituent Assembly, right? And the last of our questions coming up, and this is for NLU Delhi Team 2. In 2021, in the case of Sangama versus State of Karnataka, Karnataka introduced the Dash reservations, which has accorded over 1% reservation for transgender persons in civil service posts in a certain way, making it the first state to do so. This was a break from a model of reservation adopted in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. However, the Karnataka model is more inclusive and is similar to the reservation treatment provided currently for women and persons with disabilities. What is the reservation model adopted in Karnataka called? Tell us what is the key difference in this model vis-a-vis the Kerala or Tamil Nadu model, right? If you can give me the name of what this reservation model that was something that the Karnataka High Court kind of gave a direction for and so on, and tell us what is the key feature of that that form of reservation, you get your points. Teams, anyone pouncing on this? Okay, looks like no team wants to take the risk, but direct question was to NLU Delhi Team 2.
So we're thinking the current reservation policy for women and PWDs is horizontal. So it's across across communities, you would have to meet a certain percentage. But we're saying the difference is that the other policy is vertical in nature. So 1% is reserved, it's not distributed among communities.
It's not distributed amongst all communities, so that 1% reservation for
For
transgender
transgender
persons you're saying was just not on OBC community or on SC, STs, but it is across all communities when it is horizontal, and if it is vertical, it is only for that. That's the right answer. This is the horizontal reservation and the vertical reservation that is in models that are prevalent, and what Karnataka High Court decision was to adopt the horizontal reservation, and that's a fantastic answer, NLU Delhi Team 2, and that's the major difference that we wanted to kind of bring out, which is also this is in tune with intersectionality, right? So, which is to ensure that there are other layers of caste restrictions that is taken into consideration in this. So yes, good 10 points to NLU Delhi. Can we have a huge round of applause for that and a good crack there? And this is horizontal reservation is what we were looking for. Good 10 points. And with that, we've completed our 2 rounds of quizzing on the national finals.